In Ephesians chapter 6 and verses 1 through 3, children are commanded to do two things. First, to obey their parents, and secondly, to give honor to their parents. The Bible promises a twofold blessing to those children who will keep these two commands, that it will go well with them and that they will live long upon the land. Every parent must realize that they're on a rescue mission to keep their children under the umbrella of God's blessing by training their children to obey and to give honor to them. John MacArthur aptly states, "Children do not go bad because of something their parents do. They're born sinful, and that sinfulness manifests itself because of what their parents do not do." In Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 4, following the commands given to children, God specifically instructs the father, with his wife's assistance and cooperation, to do four especially important things. First, to avoid provoking their children to anger. Secondly, to bring them up. Thirdly, to nurture or discipline them. And fourthly, to admonish or instruct them in the Lord. Key number 9 is that parents must train their children. Let's look briefly at each of these four commands that encompass how we are to train our children. First, to avoid provoking his children to anger, a father fulfills this command by doing all that is stated in the remaining part of Ephesians 6:4. That is, to bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. More specifically, some of the ways parents can embitter or provoke their children to anger include showing favoritism, discouraging them, neglecting them, being hypocritical, degrading them, using excessive discipline, by a lack of love, or by trying to make their child into what they always wanted to be but could never become. Next, parents are to bring them up. It's interesting that the Greek word "bring them up" is found in only one other place in the New Testament. In Ephesians 5:29, it uses the same word to instruct a husband to nourish his wife as he would his own body. To bring up or to nourish pictures a spirit-filled atmosphere in which the discipline and instruction is given to the child. This atmosphere of nourishing conveys acceptance and continually offers affirmation of love. Acceptance and affirmation give security to the heart of the child that strengthens them to receive the discipline and instruction that you give to them. Thirdly, parents are to discipline their children. While correcting the behavior of a child is necessary, the ultimate goal of discipline is to train the heart behind their behavior. As Ted Tripp writes, "A change in behavior that does not stem from a change in heart is not commendable, it is condemnable." As you train your child's heart, it's important to keep these verses in mind. Proverbs chapter 13 and verse 24. "Whoever spares the rod hates his son, but he who loves him is diligent to discipline him." Proverbs 22 verse 15. "Folly is bound up in the heart of a child, but the rod of discipline drives it far from him." Proverbs chapter 23 and verses 13 and 14. "Do not withhold discipline from a child. If you strike him with a rod, he will not die. If you strike him with a rod, you will save his soul from hell." Notice the word "rod" in these verses. God ordained that the parent use corporal punishment to drive out the foolishness bound in the heart of the child. The rod refers to an instrument that is flexible and stings the child but is not injurious to the child. Avoiding injury and maintaining the atmosphere of acceptance and affirmation requires that the parent refrain from disciplining their children when they're angry. The rod is to be administered during times when the child is rebellious or defiant and the parent is under the control of the Holy Spirit. To reinforce the nourishing atmosphere, the punishment should always be immediately followed by expressions of love and affirmation. There should be hugs and kisses and "I love you" messages. Even secular psychologist Robert Larzalier admits that non-abusive spanking actually benefits a child more than alternative forms of discipline. He states that no other discipline technique, including timeout and withdrawal of privileges, had more beneficial results for children under 13 than spanking, in terms of getting children to comply with their parents' wishes. Furthermore, according to an article in U.S. News and World Report, parenting experts based all their findings against corporal punishment on a body of research that is at best inconclusive and at worst badly flawed. I take time to briefly mention the use of corporal punishment because the Bible instructs its timely use, even though it is a controversial topic in our present culture. However, I'm not saying that spanking is the only kind of discipline parents should administer. Other forms of discipline, such as withdrawing a privilege or time out, can in certain situations be effective. Keep in mind that the Bible is specific that spanking should be administered when a child exhibits a defiant or rebellious attitude. Where nurture or discipline refers more to what you do to the child, that is, the use of the rod, admonition or instruction refers more to what you say to the child. This includes instructing your child how to walk in wisdom, giving them warnings, and teaching them in spiritual disciplines. These words of instruction should exhibit a positive tone and never be degrading. When the communication is wrapped in words that convey your loving and concerned heart for the well-being of the child, the nourishing atmosphere is maintained. Since this key is not intended to be a comprehensive manual on parenting, I encourage you to check out these biblical and practical Christian books: Shepherding a Child's Heart by Ted Tripp, Age of Opportunity by Paul Tripp, Gospel-Powered Parenting by William Farley. Also, there are several messages on the Family Fortress Ministries app that may be very helpful to you. These include How to Keep Dennis from Becoming a Menace, Faithful Fathering, and Honoring Your Parents. May God grant you the wisdom to train your children to live lives that will be glorifying to Him.